Randy, you have a ministry called Last Call Out. So why that name? Where are you calling them from? To last call of what?
Okay. Well, last call out, it could be out of Babylon, which is the fallen churches, the false doctrines, bringing the truth to the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a last call to get out of the cities. God's people have been called to get out of the cities.
Okay, so your ministry targets those two areas?
Those two areas, correct?
Okay, so
Yes.
people getting out of the cities, mainly Adventists, I guess,
Hmm.
and then you have to reach all the rest to tell them about Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah, we can't just leave the cities and forget about the cities. We have to go back in and give that last message, that gospel message to the people. But we can do that from outposts, from outside of the cities.
Mm.
And so our ministry, we want to help to establish these outposts, have training, for Bible worker, medical missionaries, and send them back into the cities to work the cities. With the outposts, they have a place to come to stay outside of the cities, and so that, and then of course calling God's people out of the cities and helping them to transition into country living.
Okay, so that's interesting. How do you help Adventists to get out? Like you just tell them like, okay, you got to get out.
Yeah.
Or you teach them the how to, where to get land, or how to live, how to build. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
How is it?
there's actually other ministries that we're aware of that actually are giving that call to come out of the cities. That's not so much our focus. Our focus is more once they come out, or if they're wanting to come out, how to help them to transition. And there's several ways we can do that. Doing some training on some practical country living skills.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, in the background, you see our hoop houses.
Cool.
And we had a hands-on, basically, seminar a couple years ago on how to build a hoop house.
Nice.
And so that's one avenue. And there's gardening, different gardening tips and things, a lot of different things. How to set up a water system or a solar system. So these are some of the practical things that we can help people with. On the other hand, some people, their funds they don't have a lot of assets. We've helped, some that maybe had money to buy property, but they didn't have funding to build a house.
No.
And so we brought in volunteers, and the property owners had to purchase materials, but we brought in volunteers, and within a couple of weeks we had them up, built them a house. That was
so cool.
And I call them humble homes because they're small. They're not big homes. They're just practical, and they're just enough to get people out on their land and
Nice.
To help them that way.
Nice.
Another program that we do is building tiny homes that are actually portable, and we can use those for both people that are coming out of the cities for temporary housing, or if they want to purchase them, they can be permanent until
Cool.
while they're building a house, and then later somebody else can use it on their property.
So you build them on trailers so they can
build
just
them
move
on
them
trailers
around?
so they
Tiny
can,
houses?
yeah.
That's so
And the
cool.
other purpose for that is for Bible workers and medical missionaries, because
They can move around.
they can move them where they need them. And most of the Bible workers and they don't have a large income or anything, so and rentals are really hard to find in some parts of the country.
Yeah.
So this kind of takes that place and helps. They could park them on church property or on somebody's private property when they're working in the cities or working with the church or whatever. So that's another program that's for getting back into the cities with the gospel too.
So cool. So guys, FYI, like where we are right now, it's Randy's house. Here he lives with his family, and you are off the grid, right?
Yes, we are.
Completely off the grid. Here there's no cell phone reception. No electricity comes down here. So you're powered by solar power, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your own well. You can see here in the back all those gardens and greenhouses. And man, we've tried the tomatoes are just amazing. Amazing. And yeah, it's really encouraging to see how you guys live and to do the same, right? It's really, really, really cool to see all of this. So tell me, how did you came with this idea to start this ministry?
It's interesting because I was, sometimes we get impressions, and I mean, impressions can come from anywhere, but I had this impression. I was actually driving into town one day, and this phrase "last call out" just popped into my mind. I don't know why. I mean, it was not something I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about starting a ministry, and it was just a really strong impression. And I go, "Last call out," like out of Babylon, And these things kind of just crossed my mind, and I thought, well, what does the Lord want? Because I felt that the Lord was impressing me with this. First thought was, well, maybe the Lord just wants me to write a letter to the community, basically with the last warning message, just where we were at in time and some of the truths that God has given us. And so I started writing and writing and writing. And this is what ended up.
Cool.
It's a book. I called it Last Call Out.
Can I see it?
Yes.
Last call out.
And it covers basically all our doctrines or truths. Covers the Sabbath, the state of the dead, all these things. And it's written very simply, so in fact, I gave it to one an Adventist person to read, and she said, I've known these things all my life, but I didn't really understand them until I read this book because it's just so simple.
What a blessing.
I'm kind of a simple-minded person, so but that's what came out of that. Now, again, I had no thoughts of any other type of ministry, but I still felt that the Lord still wanted more out of me, and I wanted to give him whatever it was, and it was several years later. I don't know, 3 years later, and there was a group of us after church, sitting around after potluck, sitting around the table, just visiting, and there's little groups, around the fellowship hall, but we had, there's probably eight or 10 of us around this one table talking, and the subject turned to, outreach. What, we're always talking about doing something, but what can we really do, And of course, since this book and things have been going through my mind, and so I started just throwing out some ideas about some of the things that Last Call Out is about, and then other people said, yeah, let's. Then they're saying, let's do this, let's not just talk about it, let's do it. And it's interesting. We had one person that had a bookkeeping background. He said, I can be the treasurer and take care of the books and set up the nonprofit and all this stuff. And we had somebody else that he works with computers and websites, and he said, I'll build a website. And it was just like spontaneous. I mean, it was just like, it just amazed me. I didn't expect this, And so we just, on the spot, we decided to just do this. And here's where God works. It's just amazing. About the time we decided to go forward with this ministry, somebody was out in the hallway and somebody called one of our elders out. And he went out there, and there's some other lady not from the church out there. And I thought, it's probably just somebody that's coming to look for some help with their rent or the light bill. We get that. People come to the church for that quite often. And then pretty soon they called me out, and I go out, and this lady, never seen her before. She's not an Adventist. She just had recently moved into the community. She hands me a check and she says, "I was told you needed this."
Wow. What in the world?
I looked at it and my jaw just about dropped. It was $5,000.
Wow.
And I said, "You were told we needed this? Who told you?" She says, "Do you need to ask?" She pointed up.
Wow.
And then she just left. We brought this back into the group, you know. Of course, we immediately got down on our knees and thanked the Lord. You know, it was just a confirmation.
Wow.
Just amazing. And then just the way that God worked. I mean,
Man, I got goosebumps.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And a couple years later, you know, we're starting to get calls from people in the cities wanting to move out and stuff. We had, you know, we're on Facebook and we got a website now, and we're getting some calls. People coming out to look at property in the country, but property was kind of expensive. And I just got the impression, you know, what if we could find a large piece of property and split it up and be able to sell it to these people that are coming out and for a better price? Because you can generally you get a large piece. It's like buying in bulk, basically. You get a better price. I don't know, it was just a thought. And then plus, you know, we were kind of looking for property for an outpost as well. So the first thing I did, I go on Craigslist and I just type in 160 acres, just random, you know.
Yeah.
And this property pops up, the only one. And I called about it, and sounded interesting, but I was really busy. That year was kind of in the fall. So I never got out to look at it, and I kind of wished, I was kicking myself a little later and thinking, oh, I should have. And then I went back on Craigslist to look, and during the winter, and it was gone. I thought, it's sold. But come spring, I decided, well, let's look again. And I did the same thing, and that same property came up.
Cool.
And so I called about it, and I went out immediately with somebody else. But we didn't have any money, you know. I mean, we had the $5,000 seed money, but, you know, that's not going to go anywhere. And these people wanted cash. So I thought, well, maybe we can pre-sell parcels to these people that are looking for property, you know. And so these people that were buying parcels, they fronted the money, and we bought purchased the property. I mean, we had like a 7-day closing. It was like amazing.
Cool.
And when it was all said and done, our ministry ended up with 40 acres and enough to purchase an excavator where we could build some roads to access these parcels.
Nice.
And so the Lord just opened that up, and that's kind of where we're at now. We've roughed in some roads and some building sites for the ministry, and at this point, we're just waiting for the Lord to open the next door so that we can start building. And what we want to do is maybe put up some small cabins for people, or tiny houses.
A transition place for them.
For transitions, for people coming out of the cities. They have a place to land until they get situated. And also, again, we want to establish a training center and an outpost for medical missionary Bible worker teams.
Nice. So, but in this period of time, have you, how many houses have you helped for family that are moving? Have you been building some?
We've actually only done the one. We have helped other people in their transitioning, finding a place for them to stay. We've also had a fifth wheel travel trailer that was donated to the ministry where people can stay temporarily.
Great.
So we've helped several people, you know, in the transition, but we've actually just built this one house for a family. They were just really happy. We actually had about 30 volunteers, had a lot of fun doing it.
Cool.
You know, about 2 weeks' time, they were able to have, it was to the livable stage where they could actually live in it, and then they finished it out themselves.
Awesome.
So.
You know what it's really cool about the story, and just as other ministries that we've seen on the YouTube channel, and friends, you really have to understand this, like sometimes ministries, and most of the ministries, they are born not because you already got everything to do something. Just comes because God put something on your mind, is calling you to do something, or you or your group of friends at church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That was enough to start. You didn't wait to have a big property to start the ministry, right? You didn't wait to have a construction site to start the ministry. You know where you're going, but you need to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. If God is calling you, you just got to start.
Yes.
With whatever you have. And it's just amazing. The check that you got, it was a direct confirmation of what, well, God is leading, right?
Yeah, we had no idea that was coming.
Wow.
We just started, and that...
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, friends, it doesn't matter what type of ministry you want to start. It could be something like Last Call Out, that you want to help people to live outside, or it can be a restaurant to help people on the cities, or maybe a lifestyle center to help them heal, or maybe some digital product to get people closer to God. We don't know. We just want to help people on their needs, and just show them about Christ. But if God is calling you to something, just don't doubt, just start. And if it's God's call, He will provide everything. And this, of course, everything that you told us didn't happen like in 2 months, right? It was in a period of years, right?
Yes.
And that's another thing, God has His own timing. Sometimes things can really build really fast, or it can take years. But it's really cool to hear this story. Really, really interesting. And that book that you have there, you give it out?
Yes. Yeah, it's available. If anybody wants to donate to help reprint it, that's fine. But we're happy to. I give them out. Sometimes I'll leave them at the gas station at the pumps too.
Cool.
It's a good sharing book. It's
nice
for getting the gospel out.
Now, for them to know, tell me, what are the needs? What needs does your ministry have? What do you need right now?
Well, initially, right now, we've got the property. We really need funds to do some building projects on the property. Mm-hmm. We've also got, I mentioned the tiny houses. That's another program that we're doing. We've got a trailer frame ready to start our next one, but we need funding for that. And what we want to do, some of them we may sell to help fund the ministry, but we do want to build up an inventory of these tiny houses so they can be used for the Bible workers and for transitioning for people. In order to do that, we need funding for that.
Okay.
And those, our first, they're probably going to run around $25,000 for everything, materials,
that's not
trailer,
the cost to
put
one up.
Yeah, and we do them with volunteer help, so the labor's basically free, yes, but the materials, the trailer frame and everything, are roughly about $25,000 a piece. We've seen those sell for $85,000. They're kind of crazy right now, but
awesome. So friends, if God touches your heart and you really want to donate to this ministry and what they're doing, in the link in the description below, you'll find the link there where you can go and donate directly to them. Awesome. Well, Randy, anything that you want to tell them before we end this interview?
Well, time is short. We don't have a lot of time left. We've seen, with COVID and all the things that took place with that, how things can change just overnight. God has a work for every one of us. We all have different talents. We all have different abilities. Use what God has given you.
Amen.
And you may not be able to do something yourself. Link up with somebody else. Link up with another ministry or with other people in your church. If you need help, just get together with others. And the different ministries, we should be willing to reach out to each other too and help where we can. So, we're not just focused on ourselves. We're focused on getting the message out there, getting the getting the gospel to the world, helping God's people and whatever we need to do. That needs to be our purpose in life. And so I would say, if you've got some special ability, whatever it is, use it for God's work.
Thanks, Randy. Well, friends, see you on the next one.